welcome to Bots and Beyond, your weekly dose of all things automation, mixing up end user, vendor, and consultant experience to create your go-to podcast for bot-related insights. I am your host, Wayne Butterfield. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bots and Beyond. It's my pleasure to welcome Ema Roloff today. Hi, Emma.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Wayne.
My pleasure. I'm paying back the favor, right? Because we had a video version of one of these the other day when we spoke about automation. So this is us now talking about a topic that's a little bit closer to your heart with this week's episode, Take Me to Your Believer. And we're going to talk about enablement. We're going to talk about change management. So great to have you here. For the audience's benefit, as we usually do, can we start with your who, what, and why? So who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yes, of course. So just as you said, my name is Ema Roloff, and I am a senior sales associate focused on helping organizations manage their digital transformation with a company called Naviant in the United States. So in terms of why do I do it, I use this story to kind of explain a little bit of the background, but I had an internship about 10 years ago where I did all of the very standard internship things like fighting with the printer and running documents back and forth between people's desks. And even though this industry wasn't where I started, that experience helped me understand there has to be a better way to do business. And we can't just rely on kind of the grunt work of interns to do that. And so I used that experience to kind of shape the passion for automation within the industry, and then kind of tapping into a little bit of my background in terms of where I started. I was an educator by trade. So I went to school for education. I spent some time in that space and started to realize that translates incredibly well into this industry, because such a big part of what we talk about is educating people. And just as you said, we're going to talk about today, enabling change. So does that kind of help set the stage?
Brilliantly, and I didn't know that you used to be an educator. That really does explain some of kind of your thought process here and why you're so good at what you do. So that was new insight for me. Thinking about the foundations for good transformation, I'd be keen just to get your kind of your 101 view of what makes a good transformation. What do you need to be thinking about? What are those foundational layers?
Yeah, well, right now, the big buzz term in the world is, as we talk about transformation, is often digital transformation. And I think that the use of that word digital on the front end really sets people up to thinking really closely with just the technology side of it. But really, when we look at effective transformation, it's so much bigger than just what technology tools you're bringing in. And don't get me wrong, there's certainly different classes of technology, but at the end of the day, a lot of these tools, they're people that are focused on helping you bring the right technology in to enable your business processes. So I think a lot of these successful transformations that I've seen organizations take on really focus on the people aspect of it just as closely as they focus on the technology side of it. So again, kind of going back to that idea of really spending the time to educate your team and help shape cultural change that goes alongside with the technology that's coming in. Really looking at how do you set up avenues for continuous communication to support your change management throughout the entire process. And then, the thing to me that I think sometimes we don't put quite enough stock into is enthusiasm and getting people really excited about why you're doing the change and what that's going to look like for them. So again, when I said I started as that intern and came into this industry a couple of years later, and I started to look at how do you start to set people up to manage these digital transformations. One thing that our company, kind of a tagline, so to speak, that we use internally is this idea of process, people, and then technology. And I think the reason that we do that is you have to focus on what problem are you trying to solve and how are we going to help alleviate that specific business challenge. But then before you ever get to the technology, you have to look at the people that are involved in that. And that includes all of those other things like educating and helping change the culture and continually communicating and getting them excited. And then you can bring in the technology that's going to enable that business process to be more effective and help those people do their job more efficiently, or on the flip side, help your customers, the people that are involved in that process from the external side, get their job done, like we talked about during our last conversation a little bit.
I love the idea of technology being last. So often, we go in with here is the solution. What's your problem? We've definitely been guilty of that with RPA because it is such a general technology. It can be used almost anywhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it can be, it should be. And why? Like so often, we forget to communicate the why, and I'm a big believer in the why. Why are we doing this, and do we really understand that enough to make our people believe? You spoke about belief in your people. Again, that's going to be key. Transformation. You have to bring your people on that journey, and if you don't, then I guess prepare to fail, because transformation, as you say, is definitely about people, process, and also technology. Sometimes in that order, sometimes in different order, but it is an amalgamation of these aspects that are going to be really key to successful transformation. Any top tips on kind of enablement? You touched upon enablement before, and I'll give you where my head immediately goes to when I think of enablement in the automation space. It immediately goes to enabling people to use the technology. And you really opened my eyes just in what you were saying before about actually enablement's a lot wider than that. Give us some more insight into your view of the wider enablement piece here.
Yeah, so I think when you take a look at enablement of technology or that transformation with an organization, it really needs to be a cultural directive from the top. Now, sometimes this can be kind of on a more micro level if you're looking at one kind of visionary leader in a department that starts to bring technology on and starts to shift that culture within that department, and then it kind of by osmosis starts moving into other areas of the organization. But if you're looking for a true transformation across the board, it needs to come from the top with support from your C-suite. So, a lot of times we talk about a CEO handing down the directive that there's going to be this movement towards digital channels. But again, it's more than just the idea of the technology coming in. It needs to be this cultural shift of our organization is going to start to think about things differently. And you as the employees here and you as the people that are a part of this organization are going to help us come up with the best possible way to do our business. And I think that a major part of that cultural shift really needs to come back to that idea of education and enthusiasm. I think anybody who hears me say that, it needs to be a cultural directive coming from the top might have a little bit of skepticism of like, oh yeah, it's really great for a CEO to say that we're going to have this transformational culture and, it can be lip service and there's not a lot that comes along with it. But that's where that education and that enthusiasm comes side by side. I think you need to spend time as a leader of the automation kind of journey or transformation journey, helping at the company level get people's heads wrapped around what transformation means. Help them understand how this is going to change things for them and what that's going to look like. One thing that I say a lot, and I think as a parent, you can probably identify with this, it's not a bad thing, but by nature, humans are a little selfish. And when you look at, I've got an 18-month at home, and one of the things that she started saying pretty darn early was mine. And looking at the world from kind of that egocentric lens. And we are certainly, as adults and humans, able to move past that nature. But if you can start to educate people on what transformation is going to mean for the organization and why you are looking at transforming, they're going to be able to take that idea and turn it into kind of this what's in it for me statement. If you've ever heard of the idea of WIFM, I think is sometimes how people refer to it. And that idea of what's in it for me is going to allow them to start saying like, oh, well, maybe if we took this approach to solving this problem, it would help me address this challenge that I'm having over here. And they're going to get excited about that change, and they're going to be involved in coming up with new ideas. And there's going to be a much closer kind of individualized incentive to start moving towards that transformational goal. So I think if you can do a really great job of communicating and educating people on why you're making that shift and what that ability of the transformation is going to bring to the table for them, they're going to feel much more, kind of going back to that term, enabled to use that technology and come forward with really innovative ideas that will help make their job better, but ultimately make your transformation more successful. I think one other piece that's really important with this idea of educating and getting people excited about it is sometimes that excitement can almost be a little bit of a curse if you don't properly set the right expectations along with it. So again, going back to that idea of the word digital when we talk about transformation, I think sometimes that sets people up to believing that automation is going to solve every problem for them. And going back to what you said, just because we can doesn't mean we always should. But also that it's going to solve every problem for them instantaneously. And I think our culture focuses a lot on immediate gratification and just helping to set the expectation that a transformation takes time. And if you want to be successful with that transformation, you can't do every little last bit of it at once. And that over the time that it takes for you to move through this transformation, there's going to be pivot points or iterations through this process where you determine, that maybe bringing in RPA in this specific portion of the process isn't the right fit, or that we maybe need to bring in a combination of tools that there was a piece of the puzzle that was missing that we didn't identify at the very beginning. And there is going to be an evolution as you go through this transformation. So I think you want to get the excitement and the education going within the organization to really enable that transformation and that transformational thinking from your team, but you also need to balance it with the right expectations.
Thinking about enablement, I've always liked the concept of, having cheerleaders within an organization who just really get it. They're on the ground. They're the people that, are quite happy to have, corridor conversations, although not many of us are walking corridors apart from those in our homes at the moment. But, that they kind of get the sense and the pulse of the people on the ground. And I always think that that's kind of a good kind of tact to have, that, you don't just want to be the knight on the horse riding in and saying how great something's going to be and then riding off and to be forgotten. You kind of need to really embed everything from the ground all the way up. You spoke about I guess kind of top down and culture and how important they are, and that role of kind of bottom up, because the peasants' revolt is dangerous to any transformation, right? It's where you often see transformations fail, and it's not, sometimes it's technology, as you say, sometimes it's process. A lot of the time it's people, and I guess that's kind of where change management comes in. I guess that's where the role of strong change management really kind of comes to the fore. It's probably something I would say that's been underplayed in the world of automation. I guess what I'd be keen to get your view on is the role of change management, and also, do you feel that automation-focused transformations are different to, say, I don't know, a new ERP implementation? Like, what's your view on that? Is it different? Is it the same? And what role does change management play in that?
Yes. So as you mentioned, kind of in the introduction of things, I've been doing a video series focused on digital transformation for about 9 months now. And change management comes up in almost every single one of the conversations that I'm having. And time again, the message that I'm hearing from these experts around the world that I'm chatting with is the idea that you really need to manage your change management initiatives as marketing campaigns or kind of PR campaigns, and really looking at almost over communicating what that journey looks like from the very beginning all the way through to really communicating out the success that you've had within that journey. Another way that I kind of think of it, going back to that idea of being a parent, and anybody that knows me knows that I love to make analogies, but I had an experience recently with my 4-year-old daughter where I had to bring her to go get a flu shot. Now, last year, when she was 3 years old, I was very nervous that she was going to have a hard time with going to the doctor and getting the shot. So we spent a lot of time talking about what the flu shot was going to be, and we watched some cartoons where they were getting a flu shot, and I set the expectation for what was coming, and I helped her understand what that process was going to look like. And I honestly even tried to get her excited about being being brave and getting the shot and what was going to come after, because she was going to get a treat. And then when we were done, I called her dad in the car on the way home from the doctor on the Bluetooth over the top of the car, and we celebrated how great she did because she didn't cry, and we talked about the rewards that she got from it, and we did this whole experience. Well, this year I thought, because there were no tears last year, that I didn't need to do that process. And the best way that I can explain it was taking that little girl to go get her flu shot was like taking an angry cat to the vet. I dropped the bomb that the shot was coming the night before. She was up with nightmares. She was crying. She was fighting the entire time. And kind of going back to what you were saying just a minute ago, that idea of like the revolt of the people. She wasn't prepared for, as small as that change was in her life, she wasn't prepared for that experience. So when you go back to kind of those bits and pieces of that, when you look at change management, really how you want to get people excited about what's coming. Again, going back to that idea of culture and that overarching transformation, you want to get people excited and invested in what's happening. So going back to that example with my daughter, we watched those TV shows. We talked about the shot. We got all prepared for what that change was going to look like. And then when it was time to go to get the shot, we talked about what all the benefits were going to be. So again, as you're getting ready to prepare for your solution or your automation to take flight, talking about what the anticipated benefits are going to be, talking about what that change is going to look like, and really excitedly announcing that the day has arrived. Sometimes when we're supporting implementations, we'll do things like drop off little, go live kits, so to speak, that include little tiny things like candy and chapstick and that kind of stuff. But it's more just to get people excited and make the day feel special that something is happening. And then again, from that phone call with the flu shot, celebrating the success, and you're losing an opportunity if you don't spend the time to shout from the rooftops about what successes you've had with those stops throughout the journey of automation or transformation. And so that idea of, whether you're preparing a kid for a small change or transition in their life, or you're preparing an organization for this major transformation, you need to make sure that you're communicating and over communicating throughout that entire journey to really get people excited about them, understand, kind of beat them over the head with what the benefits are going to be and have been, so that they can really see that. Because if you successfully quietly automate a part of someone's job, and the bad part of what they do day in and day out is no longer present, and they're now able to focus on higher value tasks and they're enjoying their job, you've maybe influenced those 5 people that have that experience. And sure, they'll talk about it, but why wouldn't you magnify it to the level where it gets focus and excitement from everywhere? Because once you get that excitement going again, then your automation and your transformation journey is going to start to roll, because other people are going to get excited about how this could change their job and come up with new and innovative ways to do business. And of course, I think, as you kind of asked the question of how does the type of technology play into change management, I think that answer there, whether it's RPA or a ERP system or a CRM, across the board, I think you are going to be successful if you approach change management the same way, regardless of the technology. I don't think that it's, specific to RPA that you want to focus on a strong message of change and excitement. I think that that is true across the board.
I mean, there's some real top tips there for organizations, and I was listening thoroughly and nodding furiously on how good some of those tips are. And Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up once again. So many insightful comments across the episode. I hope you, the listeners, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Emma, for being on Bots and Beyond, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks so much for having me, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks for listening to ISG Automation's Bots and Beyond podcast, your weekly dose of all things automation. See you next week for more news and views on RPA, intelligent automation, and AI.